All right. So I've gotten a couple requests to paint live, and I'm trying to find some good angles. But I'm right-handed. I had the camera on this side, coming in from this angle, and my right hand was always getting in the way at the time. But today we're going to paint what's in the top right of the stream. It's a roper. It's a kind of a very well hidden camouflaged monster in Dungeons and Dragons. It's perfect for even the higher level adventurers in your campaign. These things are extraordinarily difficult to spot, and I'm gonna give this one a unique spin. I don't plan ever to paint in accordance to what's on the top right picture from like art from the official D&D websites and stuff. Um, I'll be doing my own thing, but first and foremost, let's go ahead and choose our colors for the day. Now, I'm thinking, as I look through this huge bin, I got this crazy, crazy huge bin of paints. Hello, how are you doing, Mahal? I'm picking paint colors right now. I'm gonna go with some earthy colors, some Bastion Gray. I'm gonna do Thrall Flesh for some nice tans. Jackbone, and for some of the other earthy areas, we're gonna do Beast Hide. For the eye, I want a really sickly looking eye. I'm gonna go with Thrall Flesh is like a putrid rotted flesh color. It's like a very very pale gray. It'll look really nice as some of his rocks. For his eye, I'm gonna go with Necrotite Green. And for the inside of his mouth, I'm going to use a nice murderous magenta for the inside of his mouth, get his gums and whatnot. With this color, it'll make whatever else I put in there for his teeth pop. And speaking of his teeth, I'm going to use perhaps, we'll see how it looks, but for his teeth I might use Trader Green or Bloodstone. I'm not quite sure which one yet, but I know I want his teeth to pop with the murderous magenta. So I'll put these ones aside so I know what his mouth will look like. And whatever one I don't use will be the color of his tongue. So the idea how I paint miniatures is that there's not really any rhyme or reason. I just figure out one core color to kind of paint him as a whole, and I call that basing. So I base the miniature with one color that I know I want to resonate with this character, and then I'll go in and detail everything individually. For his tentacles, I'm going to be really weird with the tentacles. I actually don't want them to be rock colored whatsoever. I want the tentacles to be gross and kind of sickly looking as they come out and try to grapple other characters. So I'm actually going to go with a nice, whether I use Jackbone or I use Meneth White base, and that'll give his tentacles a nice kind of fleshy look, and that's kind of the goal. They'll look like big worms. So the rest of these colors that you see in the back can be retired to the bin. Also, if I get enough time today, I will be showing everyone kind of the where a miniature starts at, when I paint, and then where a miniature ends at. I painted this one over the last couple of days, and he is nearly done. All I have to do is give him a nice coat of wash, and that'll kind of make all the other details around this miniature pop. But this is the kind of detail you can expect when you watch me paint. This is kind of like um, my style, I suppose is a good way to put it. So without further ado, we'll begin. The first thing that you want to do is find the right brush for the right job. Since all I'm looking to do right now is base him in a single color, so I don't really care about detailing. So I'll use a much bigger brush. I mean that you can take a look at the brush comparisons that I'll do. I'll only use 2 brushes for this entire paint job. I'll use this army painter. This is the monster. I wish that maybe I need to get a better camera. But you have to believe me that this is the monster, and this is the regiment. These are 2 nice brushes because when you paint a large miniature in comparison to a medium-sized player character miniature, you can kind of take liberties with the sizes of brushes that you use for the detail. So I'll use this for basing of all the colors, and then I'll use this for detailing. And then all the other brushes that I would use in a typical paint will be set aside to keep things easy on everybody. So the first thing I gotta decide is what I want his base colors to be. I'm gonna go with Bastion Gray. He is rocks. He is made of rocks, so I will be going with Bastion Gray. Bastion Gray is the darkest gray that I have, and it's a very nice neutral color for Bastion Gray, or for a gray in general. So what I don't typically do is that my brushes, I always make sure that my brushes are not hard or anything, and I wash them really well. But I don't first dunk in water. Whenever I base, I rarely use water unless I start seeing that the paint is clumping. So I'll try to show you guys all my techniques that I use throughout the paint job. So all I'm going to do is just start adding these big, broad strokes of this Bastion Gray to him. I don't really care where it goes, or there's not really any type of tactic that I use or strategy. Since I know that this is just his base, I can, as you see, I got it on the tentacle. I don't care. That tentacle can get a little Bastion Gray on it since I'm repainting over everything. This is just to get an idea of what he will be colored like throughout the duration. So if there's any specific angles you guys would want to see while I'm painting, please just speak up, let me know. As I'm painting, I'm constantly looking over to my my feed and the chat box so I can see if anyone has chimed in. For some reason, my alerts aren't going off. I tried testing them, but I knew I wanted to get this in today. Spent a couple hours on the stream painting for you guys. I'm going to start painting on stream a lot more because I got so many miniatures to paint, and I got a lot I got like a schedule of streaming that I want to do. So it's kind of a best of both worlds. A lot of paint sits in this brush, and small paint goes a long way when you're just trying to base. I mean, little paint goes a long way on all fronts, no matter what size brush you use. Just depends on what you're trying to use it for. You can already tell. You can already tell that he's going to be a fun-looking character when he's done. I'm loving this color. I'm gonna get a little bit of really shitty light coming down just to get some more so I can see if I miss any of these points. I do actually see upon further inspection he's got like an eyelid. He does have like an eyelid, and I kind of want to paint that a different color from everything else. So what I'll do is I'll leave it white-ish so I know that it's not supposed to be gray. It's not supposed to be bastion gray like the rest of his rocks. Now, whenever you start painting or whenever you paint, you can kind of decide. It's so hard to put a miniature down and say, okay, I'm done. I generally use 6 to 8 colors on any model, just because that kind of just lets me know, okay, I could put this down. I could spend, any number of hours trying to perfect this, but I don't know what else I'd be trying to do. It's not like when you show a miniature to your party members at the table and they go, oh wow, that's really great, and they spend hours talking about it. They're only interested in defeating it or bypassing the encounter at all. So when painting your miniatures as a dungeon master is a thankless job. But you don't do it for the players. You kind of just do it for yourself, which is something that I've always done ever since I've started painting. And I'm always very proud of any paints that I do. Even if there's always room for improvement. You can always do better. But I appreciate it, Mahal. Mahal plays in one of my campaigns. I'm currently running Icewind Dale, and so he's probably thinking, when is this roper going to come into play? And not that I don't know if any ropers are actually in Icewind Dale. I might have to make a special encounter just to showcase this paint job. Some Star Wars just came on, Duel of the Fates, on the playlist. Now, you guys will. This is my supercharged playlist from YouTube Music, and it's a complete random assortment of music that I have just kind of listen to, and just kind of takes a bunch of random shit that I like and put it all into one huge playlist at random. So I don't know what's going to be on here. If there's something that I generally don't like, I'm gonna just kind of skip it. But I'll gladly listen to some Duel of the Fates while we base this miniature. Oh, he's coming out very nicely. Now I'm gonna try to find a nice painting area. I just kind of like I love painting next to my computer. I found it to be my nice new personal painting station. But this shows the whole world how I actually paint. It's just I put a couple sheets of paper towel down and I just go to town. There's no special boards that I use or special paints or special brushes. I just find any color that I think might look cool on a miniature. I just pick up and I say, all right, I'll try it. I'll try that new paint. I use Army Painter mostly and P3 formula, but I think P3 went out of business because their paints are extremely difficult to find, and I think they went out of business, and I don't know why, because I absolutely love their colors, and they have this nice little lip on the inside of their jar, on the little paint jars. Little paint bottles, and this nice little lip that captures just enough paint that you'll ever need to use on a miniature, and it's like perfect because you can keep the lid open like I am now and you can paint from it. Whereas Army Painter requires you to like dump out some paint, and I feel like if I just want to do some eyeballs or something, that I feel like I waste paint. His entire backside is almost done. You can already tell he's looking if I just painted him, not to like throw shade at Wizards of the Coast, but they only use about 2 or 3 colors whenever they in their booster packs for monsters. I was very unimpressed with their paint job of their roper. It's an expensive miniature to buy on its own, painted already, and um, the paint job just isn't that good. It's just gray with like a brown wash on it. So I'm gonna really hope that I'm gonna do a better job than them. That's kind of my whole goal, is that I can look at this miniature and say I did better than them. And that's kind of my goal for every paint job, is just that I want to make sure that my paint jobs are better than ones that you can get in a booster box, a booster pack, or a promo paint. Some of their promo paint jobs are really, really good. I'm not even going to lie to you. Like, if I don't have time to paint the colossal, or not the colossal, but the gargantuan red dragon, I went out and bought the gargantuan red dragon a couple weeks ago, and I painted my own gargantuan red dragon, but I have to say that mine is more, looks like more thematic, but theirs is very good. Theirs is very well done. You can use it for any situation. I painted mine specifically for a character in the campaign that is I'm currently running. So here's the difficult part about this one, is that I have to decide what, after I base him entirely gray, this Bastion gray, which as you see is more like a brown gray now, but I have to decide what I want to do with the other colors and what rocks I want to mix, match, and paint over. I know I'm going to definitely paint the ground as like sand or dirt. And I'm just going to paint underneath gray so that it, just in case the miniature ever falls prone or anything, there's at least color underneath there. But you don't have to go crazy, because no one's ever going to really look under these things and say, hey, where's the color? Oof. Now when you paint, you are gonna get paint on your fingers. There's no stopping it, and I don't usually wipe off paint once it gets on my fingers. It just kind of dries, and I wash my hands later. I know people who paint and kind of are OCD like me, and they gotta continually wipe off paint that they get on themselves, or else they can't enjoy it. Now I do love painting. I enjoy painting very much. It's like relaxing, and it's something I have always wanted to stream. So I'm very happy that I got to just kind of work up the courage and stream for you guys my painting, because I always think to myself, is my paint job gonna be good enough, or will people like watching me paint, and whether they like Dungeons and Dragons or not, looking at these miniatures get painted. I follow a couple of YouTubers that they do paints and like dungeon dioramas and stuff, and they make their own terrain. And I'm like, oh man, that's so cool. I've always wanted to do something like that. So the reason why I'm going with a roper as my first model I'm ever painting on stream, there was no rhyme or reason. It's just one of the models I had sitting out, and I was like, I'm gonna use it soon, so I might as well paint it. And so that's where I'm at. Are we trying to be sad today? Ooh. I love the music of Celeste. That's what this one is from. Mahal, are you able to hear the music? Is it coming through quiet or clear? Or is it perfect? Is it just enough backdrop to fill the void of all empty sounds? listening. That's okay. We're almost done basing him. You'll see me go over him a couple times with the same base color in case I missed anything. I'm going to paint over that eyelid. I know I said I wasn't going to, but now I am, and I can always paint over it with the other color. I just need to make sure that I fill in all the holes with this base, because that's the worst feeling, is when you're about to finish the paint job and you realize that, shoot, there's a spot you have to go back over with the tiniest brush, and it can just get so annoying. So you might as well just fill it in now. So what I just did there is that I had to get between, I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a spot between this rock and the actual base, this little nook, and it was Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Well, I don't want to cause any problems for the stream, so I'll keep it as is. But this little nook and cranny was unpainted, and I don't want to sit around and fart around and just waste time trying to get it perfect. So I just took a big glob of paint and shoved it in there and moved it around. And even though a thicker coat will sit in there, it's at a spot to where no one's going to look. No one's going to pay attention to that area. No one's going to pick up this miniature and inspect and say, hey, what about this thick area? What about this thick boy? No one's going to say that. No one's going to even notice. So it's okay to cheat every once in a while. You don't need to be professionally adding an even coat everywhere. See, I'm the painter that all other painters are going to hate, because I'm going to just tell you, just do whatever the fuck you want, and there's no right way to paint. Paint whatever colors you want, paint however you want. Yeah. Oh, I should look into that. That'd be cool, because I could just make a painting playlist for people. So now, after basing him, it looks really good, honestly. I don't think I have to now personally inspect and take a look and make sure that there's no white spots coming through on him. I see a couple. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill those in real quick. Whenever the paint dries, that's my only issue with, I think, P3, is that when it does dry, it kind of leaves spots in some areas that you could have sworn you've painted over before. But I think that might go with every paint, you know? When you paint miniatures, the paint dries really, really fast. I don't want to pull the model away from the camera. I'm getting used to it. So once again, I see that there's an area where I'm just going to glop some paint in there and not give a single shit. It's just going to, you can do whatever you want. Do whatever you got to do to fill in that void with paint. Doesn't have to be perfect. Alright. So he is based. I'm comfortable now with this. Oh, there, all that it focused. Sweet deal. So you can see that he is entirely based now, and we're gonna go ahead and move on to get some of the other areas all colored in. And once he has a base color for the entire miniature is when we can start detailing. So I have a very generic way of cleaning my brush. Just water, stir the water with your brush, and I paint the sides. I paint the sides in case there's any residue left over. And then the reason why I like to use just paper towel is that I can soak the water and just boom, and you're done. So Bastion Gray is done for now. We're going to go ahead and paint the tentacles. So now's the time to decide what I want to paint the tentacles. I have three very similar colors, and the way that they dry is I don't want to keep them close. So I'm only going to use one of these for the tentacles. Jackbone is a very tan bone color. Meneth White is an off-white, kind of more sand looking, and then Thrall Flesh is like rotted flesh. I think Thrall Flesh would look really good as other rocks on him. So I'm going to go with Meneth White for the nasty looking tentacles. Give them a nice wormy color. See, this little trap lid there is what I'm talking about. This right there. It's perfect. It contains just enough paint that you'll need. So all you're going to have to do is make a nice cutoff point. You don't have to be perfect to where the mold ends. You just got to make sure there's a solid line between where one color ends and the other begins. And if you can see where that point is, then you're good. Then you have nothing else to worry about. See, that color's already coming out real nice. It's a nice, almost like a light skin color. The one thing you want to watch out for is flicking the brush, because it'll spray paint your model with that color, and that is really annoying to clean up. So you just got to kind of watch that. Oh yeah, that looks disgusting. It's not really well, it's kind of coming through. Let's see if we can't get. I'm just testing. Seeing at which point this camera wants to focus. That's fine. It doesn't have to really focus right now. We're just hanging out. This is so gross. His tentacles, now take a closer look, they're kind of like just huge worms. push everything a little bit closer for you guys to see. I wonder. There we go. See, you can take a look. You can see the nice difference between the off-white that it's was primed with and the nice wormy looking tan. So I'm going to continue to paint the fronts of the tentacles. Now I'm going to have to varnish these when they're done. I'm going to have to seal them. I have a nice clear sealant that I spray on my miniatures. I give them a couple coats. I have to do it outside because I live in an apartment and there's nowhere in the apartment where I can escape those fumes. It's very, very strong. See, getting a little bit of that tan on the gray is not going to be a bad thing at all, because we will be able to paint back over this with some detail and take care of all those little blemishes and little mistakes that we'll make along the way. Once I paint this side, I'll show everybody how it looks and where progress is at. I got a really disgusting idea for the tip of all of these tentacles. I'm going to discolor them so that they look really raunchy. Like, you're not going to want to get grabbed with this. Not that you want to get grabbed with anything that looks like this at all. That's, 4 times your size. There we go. All right, one side is done, and we're gonna go ahead and start the other side. And for my technique, all I'm doing is that if I know I'm covering a large area, I'm just swiping little flicks like so, and it moves a large amount of paint in a very conservative area, or rather a very conservative way. You won't be wasting those big globs for about for every inch of surface that I have to do. I know that I can cover the whole area with just a few strokes. I have a couple of friends that want to commission me for painting some of their miniatures, and I'll be streaming those as well whenever that happens. very nasty looking looking character, looking creature over here. Makes me uncomfy. And see, there was so much paint left over from that first tentacle that I'm able to get the backside of the second one. The second one on the right. Now, unfortunately, because when you have a miniature who covers the entire base, you're going to end up rubbing off some of the color near the base. And that's okay. That's why we base it first and we don't really care because we have to go back over it anyway. It's unavoidable. A lot of people say that they start from the bottom and work their way up, but that never works for me because my fingers always get sweaty and I always end up rubbing paint off of the bottom since I'm holding by the base usually at any given time. But to each their own. Like I said, there is no wrong way to paint. You do whatever the fuck you want with your miniature. You bought the miniature, you bought the paints, you bought the paint brushes. They are yours to do as you see fit with. And you get weird with the colors too. You're gonna see that this is this is gonna look very generic when we're done basing it. But I promise you by the end, after detailing, that it's going to be a one-of-a-kind roper. We're gonna give it a name. The viewers will help me name every single miniature that I paint on stream. And then once it's named, it will be added to the AlPaladin Paints gallery. We're going to paint big guys, small guys. I think larges are like my favorite to paint because they're not like... There's a lot of area, but detailing them is so much fun. It's so easy. But huge miniatures like that green dragon I showed you at the beginning of the stream, that's like a 16-hour paint job. And it can get... it can be a lot. It can be a bit much. So doing a huge on stream, I don't know if I would be able to get it done in one sitting and be satisfied. But maybe I can just say that, hey, this was done on stream. So I cut some corners, or I wouldn't have detailed as much as I would have. That's just kind of up to how I feel at the moment, I guess. Maybe you guys can help me and tell me when I'm done painting it. I'm thinking about adding like a donation or Patreon thing to where you guys tell me what miniatures to paint and what colors to use for what parts of the mini, like anyone who donates anything can be like, hey, use this color, and I'll just use that color where I see fit. But someone who donates maybe a little bit more could say, hey, use this color specifically for this guy's badass sword, or paint the tentacles this color, and let's get really weird with it, like mix and match some colors. Now, one thing I don't like doing that you'll hardly ever see me do on stream, probably not even once, is that I really don't mix colors. I don't like taking one color and mixing it with another because it gets messy. I feel like it's a waste of paint. So if I want a specific color for a miniature, I'll go out and buy it. All right, this ugly looking idiot. He's looking good so far. He's looking real nice. We're doing real good. We're making great timing too. He's almost entirely based. It's not even an hour yet. I'm going to get his eye and his mouth next, and you'll see that I'll paint them all just the same as the other ones that all one color. So tentacle, body, tentacles. We're gonna get Jackbone out of the way. Where's the mouth? We know we wanted to use one. The time to decide is now. What we want to use as a mouth. I think we're gonna go with Murderous Red, or yeah, Murderous Magenta, right? And then we're going to use Trader Green or Bloodstone as his teeth. Whatever what we don't use for his teeth will be used for his tongue. Oh, this is a lovely, bright color. I want it. There we go. You can see it's just this nice, bright pink. This wonderful pink that we're using. It's like a very, I mean, it's magenta, but it's like a very, very bright. And you can just see already that when you're basing the mouth, you can get really sloppy, especially when their mouth is open like this. You get really sloppy with this paint job. Move it around anywhere you need to. I'm even going to paint the outside of his gums, the color of his gums, so that we can really see how this maw of his is just a central aspect of this character. So there will be no doubt what is the mouth. You'll be able to just see it. At a glance, you go, oh, that's definitely the mouth. I'm going to have to get in a little close here, so unfortunately you won't be able to kind of see me do what I'm doing, but I'm going to kind of show you guys. I'm painting the roof of his, like above the roof of his mouth, this same inside fleshy color. So that way we can just see that underneath the rock is just a lot of gummy, sticky flesh. We're going to have to get really creative with some of these angles. And that's what's really the most fun, is making those creative angles work for you. And as you see, I got a little bit of the magenta on the tip of the tentacle, which is just fine. Remember, we're basically going back over everything that we've based with the same color and tidying up the miniature before we detail it, before we finish the paint job with some detailing. I mean, this thing is gonna be just fucking ugly whenever it's done. I mean, it's gonna look like, whenever this thing comes out on the table, no one's gonna want to be near it. They're gonna take one look at that and say, fuck that shit, I'm out. I didn't sign up for this. No one ever said anything about a giant stalagmite wanting to eat me. The only reason why I'm being a little, like, I'm being careful is because I don't, when I repaint the base, I don't want to have to go over too much and have this constant battle of where to paint, you know, where to stop the magenta and where to begin the bastion, because there's part of this mold that are, it's unclear where I should begin and where I should start. So you just kind of have to make that judgment on your own. And the rest will just kind of follow suit. Perfect. I mean, he is looking fantastic already. If you really didn't want to detail him at all, you could kind of just paint him these core colors, and then I would uh, paint the teeth. There you go. And then I would paint the teeth still, no matter what, just to kind of give it a finishing touch, and then you could be on your way. We're almost done with the outside of the mouth. We finished the inside, and once we're done with the outside, we'll be able to clean up the miniature after we do the eye. I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to just detail this bad boy already, because he's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun to detail. I can already see bits and pieces of rocks that I'm like, those need to be a different color, because that's just a really nice part of the mold of the miniature. I mean, this is a gorgeous model. I knew as soon as I bought it that I was going to love painting this guy. And I think a nice looking bloodstone tongue, a nice deep orange tongue, almost reddish, will be very nice. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paint around his eye the same magenta that I'm using for his mouth. I'm going to paint around his eye. As you see, that fleshy part here still goes up towards the eye a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do. But before I do that, I'm going to wash my... I'm going to rinse my brush off a little bit. We don't have to be too thorough since we're continuing to use the magenta. But he's looking great so far. He almost has all of his colors based. In fact, what I'll do is I'll paint the eye over with the same magenta flesh. That same magenta color. And the reason why is so I can go back to it later and know that it's part of the detail. And making the eyelid that flesh color is going to give this thing a sense of like exoskeletal reinforcement with its rocks that it's hiding in. The players will think, is this thing really a just mimic hiding in some rocks, or is this thing an actual monster made of rocks? Oh, it's disgusting, guys. It is disgusting. I had to get really close and move the paint around the eye so there was no blotches. But it looks great. You have that like nice little separation of... Here, let me show you. There we go. You have a nice separation of flesh and rock already. We can go ahead and kind of paint over some of the rough areas. with the magenta. And he is completely and totally based now. So, let me see if I can get real close and get him. There we go. He is totally based now. There's no spots left on him that is unpainted. That are unpainted here. So what we're gonna want to do is we're now going to go into the detailing process and decide how and what parts of this miniature we're gonna have to paint back over. Like I said, I've been touching the bottom, so you can see here at the bottom some of that gray has come off because that's where my thumb was. So I'm going to leave the bottom of the miniature for last, actually, even though I really want to paint the sand. So I'm going to use the Beast Hide, this color, for the bottom. I'm going to use it for all the non-rock parts that are just going to be the sand of the cave. I'm going to use Thrall Flesh now as a nice part of some brighter parts of the rocks. And so I can mix in some multicolor rocks onto this miniature. And this is where I will leave the big one, the big brush, out. So we're going to retire the monster. So the monster is going to be retired, and we're going to go ahead and use the regiment. The regiment is a nice brush, nice middle ground brush for detailing. So for instance, what I'm going to show you guys is that there's a nice long rock right here that I see that I'm painting now that I'm thinking could be a different color entirely from the rest of the paint job. You know, make some of these other rocks pop. So that's what I'm doing. I'm giving this thing some character. There you go. You can see it better now. And then I'll clean up after I do some detailing. I'll be able to clean up all these rocks that I kind of mess with. So for instance, I'm going to paint the back of this guy's head a little bit and get a couple rocks looking like little tan blemishes, as if he's made up of, like, besides just rocks, he could be made up of clay in some areas too, which I think is a very cool thing to think about. If he was just all one color, it kind of leaves it very boring gray, and we could have just washed him and been done, but that's not how I paint. I want to see these characters have more detail than just the standard one color for every rock, you know? And we don't have to be perfect. We just got to make sure that we cover the rock that we actually want. So when we color back over with Bastion Gray and clean up the miniature, we can get a nice separation of the grays from these nice tans. So for instance, on his back, I see a ton of like pebbles that I'm just going to paint over, and that I know they'll look really nice as different colors. So you see on his back what I'm doing. I'm just giving this guy an idea of how we can use this. Now I wonder what I can do to fix this focus problem that I'm having. I might be a camera setting. Maybe I keep it focused on one aspect of him down here. Or maybe just keep the camera closer. You know, I could put the camera down a little bit. He's gonna need a ton of cleanup. But that's okay. We knew that coming in. And we don't have to go super crazy with how many other rocks we discolor. We just need just enough so you know that he's not just made up of one kind of stone. Like, I think that his back is good. For the most part. I'm going to paint one big rock this color. Against my better nature. I felt it in my bones, and now I want it this color. I mean, it'll just look cool whenever it's done. That's like the whole point of this, right? That we're just trying to make it look cool. Almost done with this color scheme, with this detailing that we're doing for his off rocks. Now there's just one spot that I'm gonna have to just, once again, I'm just gonna have to make a glop of paint and just shoot down the side. All right. He's looking real good. I can already tell that there is a fundamental difference now of which rocks are going to be what. we're close now to getting this done. I have used Thrall Flesh a lot. My bottle of paint is almost empty. I had a phone call. I don't know who was calling, but I am in the middle of painting. So you see his blemishes are almost done of these different colored rocks. We don't have to get too crazy with it. I know that I could have maybe do 2 or 3 more colors for different colored rocks, like just different variants of grays and stuff. But at the end of the day, the rocks he's made up of are not where I'm trying to grab the attention of the players or anyone that looks at him. I'm trying to get the attention towards the eyes, then the mouths, and the tentacles. Because at the end of the day, that's where people will be kind of looking at and wanting to see. For a good reason. It's not the rocks that make the roper. It's the ropes that make the roper. There we go. I don't want to get too crazy on the back. Just enough to make it look good. Give him some purpose, you know. All right, so his rocks are done being detailed. We'll go ahead and rinse that off. Oh. Now we're gonna decide what we want to do with the tentacles. I had a really neat idea for the tips of his tentacles to kind of give him a more kind of sinister looking. I wanted to discolor them. So what I'm going to do is kind of give him an off looking. Where is it? I have it here somewhere. A nice sulfuric yellow. I'm going to go with yellow because once I do the tips, you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll see that I'm not crazy. You see, making the tips that yellow gives you an idea of the length of the tentacles. You kind of have, you have an end to them, and so your eyes naturally trace to where they start. Nothing too crazy, a small detail that many people might not think about. They just might want to paint the tentacle all one color, which is perfectly fine. But at least I want to make my tentacles, different. Give them an idea of how big these tentacles are. Take a look at the tips. The very tips of these tentacles are the length of a medium-sized creature's arm. And boom, just like that, you have like a nice discoloration, and that, but it's vibrant enough to know that, oh geez, these have some sort of like points to them, Maybe I can lower. There you go. Wow. Ooh, look at that. He's looking better already. He's looking really good. I'm going to be really proud of this one. Alright, the next thing to do is probably, let's get the eye out of the way. So we're going to use Necrotite Green, going to shake it up. All right. We might have to go back over the eye just on the front, just so some of that magenta doesn't come through, which will be just fine. But his eye's looking nasty. His eye is looking really, really good. We'll have to go back over. I think we'll have to go back over the outside of the eye with the magenta, just to do some cleanup work. But overall, he's turning out better than expected. I think now, because I'm going to try to let him sit and dry for a little bit, I'm going to just prop him at an angle here and go for the tongue. And I might get a darker color and try to get the back of the throat and make it black. That might be a good idea. Perfect. He's gonna look really good when he's done. So we're gonna let him dry for a little bit. We're gonna have to use Beast Hide as the sand and Trader Green for the teeth. Now P3 doesn't take long to dry, just when it's in glops. Like the yellow on the end of his tentacles will take a little bit to dry. His eye will take a little bit to dry, and so will his tongue. Because I wasn't able to spread out that paint to the multiple surfaces that were required. Some miniatures in the future that I will be painting on stream. I will be painting this huge, I mean, just look at the size. This absolutely massive hill giant. This absolutely huge froghemoth. That'll be a fun one to paint. He's big. He's about twice the size as this roper here. I'll be painting the Nightmare Dragon on stream as well. He's about the same size as the roper. So he'll be very fun. I'm gonna go with a nice kind of purple and magenta colors, and then have like bright orange in his wings and on his hair that's standing back. He'll look really cool when he's done. I'm gonna go with the Corpse Golem. This guy will be really cool to paint because he'll be made of a bunch of like flesh colors, like that murderous magenta that we have back there will be his actual base. We'll base him all that bright color, and then we'll just color the bones and put some blood, kind of wash him with blood all over him. So he'll just look really fucking gross. I'm not gonna lie to you, he'll look really just fucking nasty, this guy. And then we have a nice council of undead, a bunch of ghosts, which I'll show you. I'm not actually going to paint them with any detail at all. Instead, I'm going to wash them with individual colors, like make one a red, green, blue, yellow, whatever, purple phantom. And then you'll see that they'll be still see-through, they'll still be transparent, but they will be all individual colors, so you'll be able to tell which one, like, which clear guy are you attacking? You'll be without attacking the red guy, the blue guy, whatever. Even though it's a shame because some of these miniatures have some incredible detail to them, even with them being transparent. Like this guy has a really unique coat. I wonder if this will ever zoom up on. It's unfortunate. I'll have to get some color on him so that has a point to focus on. But he's really cool. He's my favorite of the group. Some finished paint jobs of like, so this is from a booster box. This is a Bugbear. This is how Wizards of the Coast paint their miniatures. They're good. This guy, he definitely tells you exactly what he is. He's wearing armor, has a big fuck off sword. He has his eye patch over his eye, and he has a little bit of hair. But you see, he's very boring. He's very dull. All of the armors are painted the same colors. Same thing with his sword. Even the detail in his blade is painted the same color, and that wouldn't fly with me. I would want to paint them something different. Same thing with their I apologize. Same thing with their gold dragons. This is a large gold dragon by Wizards of the Coast, or WizKids rather. This is from Pathfinder battles, not Dungeons and Dragons, but they work. They're the same size as Dungeons and Dragons miniatures. But even they kind of suffer. Like this is a gold dragon, so it's very gold, and I'm glad they took the time and like blacked out the tips, But he only's got 3 colors: gold, black, and then the inside of his mouth. The inside of his mouth here. Which I think is kind of a cop out. Like, you, as a gold dragon, you can base him all gold, but I would still give him like different colors, maybe some red in the wings. I would definitely wash him different. I'd make some stuff pop. Just because he's a gold dragon doesn't mean he has to be 100% gold. Just like with my green dragon here, I didn't just want to make him all green. I wanted to make this guy unique. When he gets slapped down on the table, I wanted people to know that he's a character of mine. That he's and not just any old green dragon. I even gave him like moth like details or on the back of his wings. You see, he's definitely a green dragon, but he's got red in his wings and gold in his horns and stuff. I based him off of King K. Rool from the Donkey Kong and Super Smash Bros. Series. So let's go back to this guy. He's probably done drying. And now we are ready for the sand. We're going to paint the sand on the bottom. And then we're going to do our last cleanup. Teeth, and then the back of the mouth. And then he will be ready for washing. And he will be done. I will wash 2 miniatures on stream. I'll wash him. And I'll wash the big dragon that I just showed you guys. So the first thing we want to do is, well, let's go ahead and get the teeth done, actually. Let's get the teeth done. So we want a Trader Green for the teeth. It'll look just like the rocks, almost, because Bastion Gray and Trader Green are very similar. One's just obviously a little bit more green. But, oh, the lid just fell off of this one. That's just fine. We'll make it work. So all we want to do is just very briskly, just a very light stroke over the teeth. We want to get behind the teeth. And then these ones at the bottom are going to be very difficult to get to because they are right behind a couple of tentacles. You gotta be very careful and mindful of the placement of your brush, because I just pulled away and I almost hit a tentacle with the wet end of my brush, and I'd have to redo the tentacle. Painting can get so relaxing and mind-numbing that you just kind of forget your spacing. And then we're going to get the outside of the bottom teeth. And the teeth are done. Looking really good. He looks real nasty. Put that right back on. All right, time for cleanup. I don't know. I know I said I was going to use the 2 brushes, but the circumstances I think have changed. There's some. Well, maybe not. We'll play it for by ear. We need that Bastion Gray again, and we're going to clean up all over the miniature. We're going to do some cleaning up. Make them look real nice. So the first part that I'm noticing that requires some cleaning up is the top here. We want to separate this rock from the rest of these rocks. And just identify it as one rock. That's perfect. That's perfect. So now the front end doesn't look so botched, so messy. And we gotta do that with these other rocks too. Kind of give them some definition around their areas. I am going to need a better camera if I'm going to continue doing this, I think. It might be a good investment on my part. Seeing a ton of areas on here that need to be painted back over, as we knew this was going to happen. almost done with cleaning up the rocks. We'll then have to clean up the eye and then go for the sand. And then we go for the wash. Now the sand will be the hardest part because we will have to be very careful not to mess up and require cleanup afterwards. We almost got it. Cleanup is one of my favorite parts because you get to see all of your hard work paying off. This is a huge blemish over here we gotta clean up. Can't believe I decided, yeah, that was okay to do. Sorry that I move it off camera sometimes. It's just I have to get these little areas. All right. The rocks are cleaned up. As you see, he's looking great. And the last thing we gotta do, clean up the eye, paint some sand at the bottom. Paint the back of his mouth, which I honestly think I will do last. Let's do the sand. Because then we'll be able to see what this looks like. This is the part you gotta be real careful with. We don't want to mess up too bad. I mean, it wouldn't be too bad if we screwed up, because, you know, rocks can be covered in sand. Oh, these are going to be some fun areas to paint. The sand has turned out nice, though. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to paint the back side of this and make like a nice sand trail. Didn't turn out bad at all. Just gotta color that part in. Very nice. Very happy with the color choices. All right. Ladies and gents, I think we are looking great. He turned out, or he's turning out, really, really well. I can take a look at him now. He's almost done. Almost done now. Let's clean up that eye. I'm going to use now a 4Gamer Kolinsky Masterclass, this really small brush, to clean up the eye. I wanted to do it with the two brushes, but I'm liking this project so much that I really don't want to fuck up now. I don't want to keep going over the eye. And I think it's looking so fucking good. Really proud of this paint. See, much better. Much, much better. And then we're going to have to go over that with the green. But we will do that after we wash him, because you'll see why. When we wash him, his eye will be really dark. But we'll have to go over that necrotite green to make it the brightest part of the paint job. Honestly, he turned out really good. For the last touch, before you let him dry and do some washing, we just gotta take this little speck of black and put it into the back of his throat. Perfect. And as you see, he's got a nice little backdrop into his mouth. And he is done for now. I'm very, very happy with how he turned out. So he is done for the most part. All we have to do... Hey, well, thank you. Thanks for joining the stream. I just finished painting him. The next step is to give him a wash after he dries. But he's looking... I'm really happy with the colors that we went with. You can take a look at the top right of the stream and see the difference into the difference of the colors from like their concept art to what I wanted to do with him. I wanted to. I know at the beginning of the stream, I wanted to differentiate between like the sand, the ground to where he was going to sit in, to the actual rocks he was made of, and then give the rocks multiple colors, so it looked like he was made with more than just one type of rock. Maybe he was made with clay or something. Um, and we added yellow to the tips of his tentacles to give a concept or a sense of like distance between where the tentacles began and where the tentacles or would rather end at. And you knew that even the single tip of the tentacle is the length of a medium-sized miniature's arm, so you could know that how big and fearsome this beast or this creature would be on the table. We went with a flesh color for the mouth and the gums and the eyelids. We made that all one color, so it looked like underneath all the rocks he was just one big sticky flesh gummy creature, and he was using the rocks as an exoskeletal shell. The green, the necrotite, the really bright green, we used for the eye, to kind of draw us to where the epicenter of this creature would be. If he had a weak point, where would this be? Thanks. I'm glad you liked the green for the eye. I just wanted something a little different, so something that was bright and completely different color than the rest of the miniature, something that would pop. So after he finishes drying the inside of his mouth and the sand, we'll go over him with a nice black wash. And then once he's washed, you're going to see how all of my miniatures are all washed the same. So it all gives them a very dark, gritty look. It looks like they're all always in in dungeons or crawling through caverns or adventuring through the Underdark. After we wash him, we'll take one last coat of necrotite green, and we'll go over the eye after he's washed, so that way it remains a vibrant ball and not this dulled out area. Our next paint job that I'll do next time I'm up and streaming, the next paint job is going to either be the Hill Giant, the Froghemoth, the Nightmare Dragon, or the Bone Golem, the Flesh Golem. Which ones would you guys like to see me paint next? Because while we wait, I'm going to go over the previous paint job I made of this gargantuan green dragon. As you can see, the size difference from a medium player size character to the large roper that we just painted to a huge Froghemoth. And then you can just see the difference in scale. He's so big that he takes up literally all their space. So I can't even put them in the same shot. Maybe I could put him in the back. So you have an idea of the miniatures, that the size of the miniature. So they're just really, really big miniatures that I will paint up with the wolf. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my tray for my my wash ready, and I'll show you guys what I do. This is like AlPaladin. This is kind of what separates my miniatures from the rest. I use one wash, which is a lot of people are going to probably cringe if they're painters, but I use one wash for every single miniature. It makes them all look like a complete set together when they're up on a shelf. They're all in a dungeon together, and it makes them all look very dirty, and that's like the whole point of using this one wash. Um, Anime gamer Dev, you said you said the wolf. Are you talking about the nightmare dragon? For what to paint next? Here we go. We got very little of this armor wash left, which is the same wash that I've been using for years now. But we will be doing... So how I wash miniatures, we're going to make sure that that black in there, yeah, it's looking dry. It's looking as dry as can be. So we take this has really grainy actually. We might need a new brush for this wash. I'll go ahead and grab that now. Here we go. So I'm going to take this brush here and we're going to use it as our washing brush. To wash the miniatures, very simple. For a large miniature, I'm going to put maybe about 6 drops in here. I'm going to need to get my needle. Some has dried on tip. That's the problem when using... that's the problem with using these old paints that I've been using. I'm going to have to eventually upgrade. But for now, I want to take this pin. You can tell this has happened before because I'm always ready with a nice pin to stick through the top and clear out any blockage. So like I said, I'm going to use about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drops. Maybe 7 or 8, kind of depends on how well this goes. The first step to washing the mini is always going to be to wet it. So you wet the brush and you keep that drop of water on there and you kind of swirl it and mix that single full brush of water into your wash. And then you're going to be able to just take the miniature and you're going to just base this nice black wash all over him. You're going to take it and you're just going to smear it all over and try to evenly distribute the wash over this miniature. What this does, why I use the black wash, is that what you'll see here, the black wash sets into, because it's thin, it's like ink and not paint, it'll settle into every single nook and cranny of this miniature and it will pop out all the details of this mini. It'll, like, all the little rings on the tentacles will pop, all of the rock surfaces will be more heavily defined on the back and on the front of the mini. I mean, it's going to look really, really good when it's done. And the reason why I'm putting so much on the back here is so we have a lot to move around into the back behind these tentacles. As you see, I'm kind of moving it around so we can put this wash behind the tentacles and put the wash on the back of these stones and move them. And you'll see the absolute difference between washing him and leaving him unwashed. Now, sometimes I make such a vibrant paint job that I'm like, I shouldn't wash this. And then when I do wash it, I never regret it. I go, I should always be washing minis. Just because it's my favorite kind of look. It is, and that's the reason why I wash all my miniatures with the same P3 armor wash. And that's just because that's just my style. Like, I'm going to get all around his eye. As you see, we've just darkened the eye. So we're going to have to paint over it again if we want it to still have that resonate, that same kind of pop. And sometimes you can take a bigger brush like we just had if you feel like you're not moving enough around. And I'm going to take this dry brush and I'm going to move around the wash on the tentacles. So that way it doesn't cake on and we can still get a really disgusting, dirty, wormy look to it. You'll notice that we'll lose all the vibrancy of what we just painted it with, but what we lose in vibrancy, we will have gained in a really nice, gritty, dirty detail after washing him. It's like the final, it's like the cherry on the tip of the cake. We're going to get the inside of his mouth now. Get all the rings inside of his mouth. We're going to paint the front of the front rocks. Going to wash the front rocks. And just like I thought, we might need 2 or 3 more drops. So that's what I'll go ahead and do right now. So he is looking just absolutely nasty. And like I said, we're going to want to take a slightly bigger brush and move the wash down the sides of these tentacles. Nice and even placement of these washes will really make this miniature pop. And all the areas that we highlighted with the previous paints, like the discolored rocks, you'll look at now after we did their cleanup, and you'll be like, man, I can really see the difference here. I can really see what the idea is. I'm going to take now a wider brush, this one, right? I'm just going to move any remaining of the wash. I'm just going to move it around more with really quick, rapid strokes. Like, I noticed that there's a ton caked onto some of these tentacles, and I'm going to try my best to kind of distribute the wash to the other sides of them. Sorry, I keep pulling it away from the stream. All right, and for the last touch, for the finishing touch, we're going to go back over the central eyeball with the really fine tip with this nice masterclass tip, and we won't need a lot. We'll need just enough so that we can clearly see the green again. We want the green to come through. But we don't want to take away from the part of the eye that we want to be shaded with the wash that we just did. Perfect. Perfect. And that is how we make the eyeball bright again. And now we let it, I mean, we don't even need to let it dry. We can take one last look over everything we've done to the miniature. And we can see a completed job. I'm going to post pictures of all of the... Actually, you know what I will do? I did see this on the side here. I'm going to go over the inside here real quick. But he is more or less done. There's just one spot on the top of his head that I feel like can use a little bit more wash. But he is done. We have completed our paint job. It came out extraordinarily well. I love what we've done with the paint job here. You can see that from the beginning of the paint to the end that we have now washed him, and you can see all of the rocks that were once vibrant in different colors kind of all mold into the same one, but yet different colors. And that was kind of the whole point. You can tell that he looks really, really defined now with the wash. You can see the individual rings on his tentacles. They're popping out, and you can still see we didn't even lose, even with how much wash we used, we didn't lose the fleshy inside of his mouth or around his eye. It's still very, very easily seen and identifiable. We didn't lose the yellows on the tips of his tentacles, so washing isn't this scary thing you have to worry about losing your detail. I think that using this wash amplifies what we're trying to accomplish. Now, if you wanted it, you don't have to wash ever. If you like the way the miniature looked before, like I love the way we had the miniature before the wash, but like I said, I like to kind of keep them all in the same kind of style. So that is the end of our little paint session here. I'm going to try to get this guy out into some more light, maybe. Let's see if we can get him in some more light. Let's go up here. So yeah, he looks really, really nice. I'm going to take some pictures of him and post him on the AlPaladin Facebook page. Be sure to follow me on Facebook and subscribe to me on YouTube. It shows support, and I kind of want to do streaming for a living. I play video games and I will paint, and I'll kind of go back and forth between the two. I'll also post a poll of what you guys want me to paint next on stream of the 4 miniatures I mentioned on stream earlier. And I hope to see you guys on the next painting session.